Welcome to our channel, where we update the most shocking developments of the TV series The Young and the Restless. The atmosphere at the Abbott mansion was bustling with a family party, where everyone gathered to celebrate a seemingly happy and bonding occasion. However, in the middle of everyone congratulating each other, Diane suddenly detonated a bombshell of information. She announced that Kyle was not Jack's biological son, but was actually Victor's son. The room suddenly became silent. The astonishment was evident on everyone's faces, especially Jack, who was always proud of the Abbott family. For a long time, Jack had no doubt about his blood relationship with Kyle, whom he loved, cared for and trusted wholeheartedly. Kyle, who was confident in his position as the son of the Abbott family, is now shocked to learn that he may be blood of the Newman family, a family that is Abbott's rival in the business world. Summer, the girl who has just been confirmed as Jack's biological daughter, is also surprised and confused. Everything she knows about her family, about having a brother like Kyle, now becomes shaky and full of doubts. Meanwhile, Victor Newman, the most powerful man in Genoa City, is silent and keeps a sharp gaze trying to search for all the facts in his head. Victor has always disliked Jack and vice versa, but the thought that Kyle may be his son turns the situation in an unexpected direction. Diane, in a climax, reveals that she had a brief relationship with Victor at a time when his marriage to Nikki was falling apart. When she found out she was pregnant with Kyle, she plotted a big scheme to let her son benefit from the Abbott family. She hid everything, making detailed plans to make Jack believe that Kyle was his biological son. Now, in a moment of wanting to take the upper hand or wanting to regain control, she revealed the card that she had kept for many years, destroying the seemingly cozy atmosphere of the family party. As soon as the information bomb exploded, many people wondered why Diane chose this moment to tell the truth. For a long time, Diane has been known as a scheming woman, always knowing how to manipulate other people's situations and psychology to bring benefits to herself. Recently, she realized that Jack was increasingly distant from her, especially after the family turmoil he had to endure, such as Summer was actually his daughter. Furthermore, Diane also feared that if Summer's appearance took all of Jack's love, Kyle would no longer be the center. Kyle's position and importance in Jack's heart might be threatened. Therefore, hinting at this truth was a clever control move, forcing everyone to turn their attention back to her. Diane may have loved Jack. However, her ambition, calculation and fear of being rejected made her not hesitate to push everyone into a fierce situation. She seemed to believe that the information Kyle is Victor's son was a talisman or a weapon of destruction so that she could steer the game the way she wanted, or at least, would not be left out. Jack always considered Kyle as his biological son, a worthy heir of the Abbott family, and even loved him wholeheartedly over the years. The moment Diane said, "Kyle is Victor Newman's son," Jack almost lost his composure. His heart ached, his mind was spinning, he couldn't believe that everything had been a deliberate deception. He was desperate and angry. His protective instinct made him angrily shout at Diane to explain the source clearly. But he also understood that if Diane had made such a statement, she must have evidence in hand, such as DNA test results or any medical evidence that was enough to prove it. The image of Kyle from childhood to adulthood, the memories of the days when he took his son's hand to school, or the times when he guided him how to work at Jabot, all came flooding back, making him collapse. He feared that if that was true, Kyle would lose his connection to the Abbott family, and he would also lose the son who seemed to be his everything. The rage mixed with the deep pain made Jack temporarily unable to think coldly. He could only scream, criticizing Diane, thinking that she was the cruel person who had ruined everything. For Kyle, the sudden news that Jack might not be his biological father was a terrible shock. He felt like he had lost the foundation that had been so solid for so long. Up until now, Kyle had always been proud of the Abbott lineage, of being able to succeed Jack to maintain and develop Jabot. All those ambitions immediately became blurred. Kyle was stunned, asking Diane to show clear evidence, because he could not rely on words alone. But Diane's calm and calculating expression, combined with Victor's cold attitude, made him realize that it was entirely possible that he was really Newman. Kyle fell into a deadlock. He still loved Jack, the person who raised him, gave him the best things. And now, Kyle did not know how he could look at Jack if the truth was revealed. What would become of the father-son bond when science said that he and Jack were not blood-related? On the other hand, he also couldn't ignore the fact that if Victor was his biological father, his life would turn to a new chapter. The Newman family was very powerful, and anyone who got involved with Victor could both receive glory and face countless troubles. That powerful man, ever since he heard the news that Kyle could be his biological son, had kept a pensive expression, not showing any obvious emotions. Victor had gone through many storms in the business world, and had confronted Jack and the Abbott family many times. Perhaps in the moment Diane revealed the secret, Victor had pieced together memories of his fleeting relationship with Diane, when he and Nikki were having problems. If Kyle was really his biological son, it would make Victor consider many important factors, from the succession at Newman Enterprises to his relationship with Jack, which was like water and fire. Victor did not immediately comment. He discreetly observed Jack's, Kyle's, and Diane's reactions. As a wise and ruthless person when necessary, Victor quickly grasped the opportunities or risks that might arise. He realized that this was not only the Abbott family's problem, but also the smoldering war between the Newman and Abbott empires. At this time, he was following the developments with caution, because more than anyone else, he understood that the truth could be a springboard for him to increase his power, but could also be a knife tip that would make everything go haywire. Not only confined to the Abbott mansion, the shocking news about Kyle's bloodline immediately spread throughout Genoa City, where large and small families were swayed by any shocking event. This city was no stranger to such earthquakes, but the incident of Diane publicly announcing that Kyle was Victor's biological son was enough to make the entire upper class tremble. Nikki, Victor's legal wife, was shocked and furious. She felt betrayed, even though it had happened many years ago. Nikki had always been wary of women who had been involved with Victor, because she knew her husband was not simple. Now, Diane, someone Nikki had always considered a rival, suddenly appeared with a cruel truth, making Nikki fear that Victor might be caught up in unpredictable emotions. She could not sit still and watch Diane infiltrate her family, especially when that woman owned Victor's son. Phyllis, who had had many grudges against Diane, of course could not pass up the opportunity to express her opinion. She had long hated Diane and saw this as just a ploy to attract attention and profit. However, Phyllis was also heartbroken and worried about Jack, the man she still had a lot of feelings for. She was afraid that Jack would collapse when faced with the shock of losing his child. At the same time, Phyllis was also hesitant about Kyle's position at Jabot, because this could greatly affect the company that Jack built. Billy Abbott, Jack's younger brother, was known to be hot-tempered, and immediately reacted strongly. He rushed to the Abbott mansion, questioning Diane about how she had deceived the whole family for so many years. Billy was also worried about the future of Jabot, because Kyle was one of the key factors. If he suddenly switched to Newman Enterprises, the Abbott family would be torn apart. His mood exploded between the responsibility to protect his family, his loyalty to Jack, and the confusion of how to deal with Diane's scheme. No one wanted to live forever in doubt and suspicion. That's why Kyle decided to resolve the matter once and for all with a DNA test. He understood that only science could clarify the truth. Kyle even made an appointment to meet Victor in the luxurious office at Newman Enterprises. The two had a confidential discussion to agree on the method, location, and process of DNA testing. Kyle clearly expressed his desire to keep everything absolutely confidential, because he feared that the information being leaked would cause further unnecessary damage. During the meeting, Victor kindly poured tea for Kyle, but behind that calm demeanor was still a myriad of calculations. He was observing Kyle, trying to see if there was any aspect of this young man that reflected his younger self. It is also possible that Victor is reminiscing about the short time he fell for Diane. Although he suppresses it, he cannot deny that he feels a little guilty when thinking about the fact that he accidentally left a child behind. However, he still maintains his familiar boss manner, weighing the pros and cons. He suggests that he take care of the testing procedure at an independent, reputable laboratory, ensuring no interference. Both he and Kyle provide samples, then wait for the groundbreaking results. Meanwhile, Diane does not miss the opportunity to express that she also kept the original DNA results, but Kyle and Victor think that for transparency, it is best to do it completely again. They do not want to rely on documents from the past that only Diane has. The thought that Diane could have faked it still lingers in everyone's mind, because no one is sure what she is planning. During the time waiting for the test results, Jack lived in a nightmare. He hardly slept or ate, often sitting quietly in the corner of the room looking at the old photo with Kyle. In the photo, Kyle was still a child, smiling, sitting on Jack's shoulder. He remembered the moments when father and son went fishing together, attended company parties, or when he tried to train Kyle to become the successor of Chabot. Jack had never felt such a great loss, because what he was facing the risk of losing was not shares or money, but the biological child he loved like flesh and blood. As for Kyle, the young man had to face an internal struggle. He still saw himself as an Abbott, attached to this family, and had the mentality of an Abbott child. However, if the DNA results confirmed that he was Victor's child, could he turn a blind eye? Because after all, it is also his bloodline. Can he ignore everything, continue his life as before? Or will he listen to the call of his bloodline, accepting to enter the world of Newman Enterprises with all its opportunities and potential dangers? This concern becomes a burden on Kyle's shoulders, piled up by pressure from both sides. Jack always looks at him with a heavy gaze, like a father willing to keep his son. Victor implies that he respects Kyle's decision, but does not forget to affirm that if Kyle is a Newman, he will receive full benefits and protection from the family. Kyle's choice is no longer a personal matter, but affects a series of intricate relationships in the city. All suspicions fall on Diane Jenkins, the one who caused this psychological storm. She affirms that she has no evil intentions, just wants Kyle to know the truth about his background. But those who have interacted with and confronted Diane know that she always has an unpredictable agenda, calculated schedule. She can take advantage of Kyle being Victor's son to enhance her personal position. She can also use this as a bargaining chip with both sides, either Jack or Victor. When facing each person, she often cleverly uses half-true, half-false tricks, making them feel insecure and not daring to act too aggressively with her. While waiting for the results, Diane appears to be more reasonable, proactively keeping silent in some situations to avoid blowing up conflicts too soon. She also appears at a few social events in Genoa City, smiling at everyone, as if she is not the center of the storm. Occasionally, she strikes up a conversation with Nikki, pretending to share her concerns about Kyle possibly becoming a member of the Newman family. Nikki was disdainful, but still kept her composure, partly because she did not want to lose face in public, and partly because she knew that Diane was unpredictable, and any argument could become an excuse for her to make up stories. In this vortex, Summer also fell into a tragedy that was no less painful. The girl was already shocked when she learned that she was Jack's biological child, and now suddenly saw Kyle, whom she once thought was her brother, become Victor's son. Previously, Summer and Kyle had developed romantic feelings when their origins were unknown. Although that love story had passed, the traces and complicated feelings were still there, making both of them confused every time they met. Summer stood before the scene of the Abbott-Newman family, which was already chaotic, now many times more chaotic. She felt that she had accidentally become a strange link between two forces. On the one hand, she had just recognized Jack as her real father. On the other hand, if Kyle is really a Newman, it means he is related to her through Victor, because she is also a Newman on Nick's side. That mess sometimes makes Summer sad, confused, even ashamed when thinking about the time when she and Kyle used to be in love. Nick, who Summer once believed was her biological father, is also caught up in the vortex of anger, because he sees his father Victor facing the risk of having another illegitimate child. Nick knows that the battle for inheritance in the Newman family is not peaceful. Now, if Kyle joins, it could open up a whole new set of conflicts. Nick is also concerned about Summer, fearing that his daughter will be in a difficult situation emotionally and psychologically. The news that Kyle could be Victor's biological son has stirred up the boards of both Chabot and Newman Enterprises. At Chabot, some senior members fear that if Kyle is not Abbott, he could lose his inheritance or influence internal decisions. Kyle's loyalty to Chabot would be shaken if he realized that Newman blood flows through his veins. Meanwhile, at Newman Enterprises, big shareholders see an opportunity. If Kyle is indeed Victor's son, the company will have a new element, especially since Kyle is very knowledgeable about the cosmetics and fashion market, Chabot's main business. They whispered that Victor could lure Kyle back, turning him into a bridge for Newman Enterprises to penetrate deeper into the field that Chabot was dominating. Some even had the idea of initiating a merger or at least taking advantage of Kyle's business ideas. These two empires have always considered each other as eternal rivals. The Abbott family is led by Jack and the Newman family is ruled by Victor. Jack and Victor themselves have fought over many big deals, often dragging each other to court. Now, with Kyle possibly having Newman blood, the boundary between the two families has become even more fragile. This could very well be a turning point, shaking the business market in Genoa City, leading to many unpredictable consequences. The waiting time seemed to last forever, and finally the fateful day arrived. Kyle, Jack, and Victor all went to the hospital or lab they had agreed on, where the test results would surely come. Diane, somehow, also appeared, eagerly waiting to hear the verdict. Everyone was in an extremely tense space. The lab worker appeared, holding a tightly sealed envelope in his hand. When the results were opened, the entire world seemed to stop spinning. The test paper confirmed that Kyle had a DNA code that showed he was indeed related to Victor, and did not match Jack. The DNA statistics were clear evidence, completely denying Jack's role as a father biologically. Jack was so shocked that he was speechless. He felt his body empty, as if his soul had just been taken away. Kyle dropped the results, his heart pounding, still unable to accept this cruel truth. Victor bowed his head, his eyes were slightly moved, then he regained his composure, and nodded slightly as if to tacitly acknowledge Kyle as his son. Diane stood in a corner, her hands shaking, perhaps because she was happy that the truth supported her, or perhaps because she was afraid that she would be severely criticized when the fraudulent scenario was exposed. In the days after the results were announced, Jack almost fell into a serious crisis. He didn't know whether to hate Diane or hate himself for easily believing her for so many years. He also didn't know how to face Kyle, especially when in his heart, Kyle would forever be his little son. However, legally and biologically, Kyle now belonged to the Newman family. Should he continue to stay at Chabot and still consider Jack his foster father, or should he properly enter the Newman ranks, where Victor was ready to welcome him with all the treatment? Although Kyle loves Jack, he knows he can't pretend nothing happened, because the truth is that DNA cannot be changed. Moreover, a part of him also wants to explore the blood connection with Victor, the man he once thought was the archenemy of the Abbott family. Kyle's choice is not just a matter of love. It involves shares, inheritance rights, position in the business world, and even the consequences of his relationship with Summer. Summer is now even more confused because she is also involved with the Newman family, even though she is Jack's daughter, not Victor's. Everything makes a messy picture, making even the old characters in Genoa City shake their heads and sigh because they did not expect the drama to reach this level. Understanding that this undercurrent cannot be allowed to continue to spread, Jack takes the initiative to make an appointment with Victor. Neither at the Abbott mansion nor at the Newman Enterprises office, they chose a private conference room in a neutral building. There, Jack and Victor sat across from each other, like two generals in a peace negotiation. Jack spoke in a hoarse voice from not having slept for days. He questioned Victor about his responsibility to Kyle, and expressed his feelings that he would not be able to stop Kyle from going to Newman Enterprises, but he would never allow Kyle to be turned into a chess piece. Victor calmly replied, affirming that he cherished Kyle as a biological son, promising not to harm Kyle, but also warning that Kyle was an adult, smart enough to choose his own path. The conversation escalated when Jack mentioned Diane and suspected that Victor might have known about this secret in advance, and then secretly colluded with Diane. Victor denied it, affirming that he had no idea that Kyle was his biological son until Diane revealed it. The two could not find common ground about Kyle's future. They only understood that the decision belonged to that young man, and Jack and Victor would use all means to convince Kyle to stay by their side. The meeting ended without any concrete results, leaving only a simmering tension that could explode at any moment. After shaking Genoa City, Diane still showed no remorse or regret. She seemed to have a long-term plan. Some people thought that she wanted to use Victor's reputation to secure Kyle's future, while also improving her own position. Others thought that she was planning to reconcile with Jack, taking advantage of his affection to continue to have financial and spiritual support. There were even rumors that Diane was keeping even more earth-shattering evidence, in case both Jack and Victor turned their backs on her. After the earthquake, the center of attention was still Kyle, who was standing between the Abbott and Newman families. His life is now a series of stressful days. Jack considers Kyle as a son, still tries his best to treat him well and hopes that he will continue to accompany the Abbott family. However, Jack cannot deny the fact that Kyle has Newman blood. As for Victor, he opens his arms wide, ready to give Kyle the opportunity to learn and participate in managing some new projects at Newman Enterprises. However, the father-son relationship between Kyle and Jack cannot be washed away overnight, and he himself has never imagined that he will work under Victor. This lack of a clear dot makes Kyle more tired than anything. If he chooses to be neutral, he may be seen by both sides as a coward, not daring to face up. If he chooses to side with Abbott, he will give up the potential inheritance rights in Newman. On the contrary, if he leans completely towards Newman, he may lose the deep emotional bond with Jack. The conflict was even more intense, as Kyle had close ties to some of the staff at Jabot and had also built joint projects with them over the years. Summer still tried to comfort Kyle, reminding him that family affection sometimes could not be measured by DNA, and that Jack would never abandon him. However, Summer also understood that Kyle's desire to find his true roots was justified. She could not stop Kyle from seeing Victor, nor could she force him to turn a blind eye to a biological reality. Diane, the focus of all suspicion, was like a master director standing behind the scenes, adjusting the tangled strings. She had caused a storm, and she might still have other cards left to play. Everyone was wary, both resentful and wary of her, knowing that Diane would not back down easily. Plus, with such an atmosphere, Genoa City hardly has a single day of peace. One conspiracy gives rise to another, one secret piles up on another. Even when the DNA truth has been exposed, the psychological cracks and doubts cannot be erased. Some say that this will be the event that shapes the next generation of the Abbott and Newman families, because Kyle, Summer and other young people will have to learn to adapt or face reality. They carry on their shoulders the family legacy, love, loyalty, fear of betrayal and dreams of fame. Only time will tell whether Jack will forgive Diane, whether Victor will devise more schemes to consolidate his position, and which path Kyle will choose for his career in love. Thank you for following this super dramatic plot summary on our channel. Stay tuned for more updates on The Young and the Restless, and stay tuned to see where things will go as the shockwaves surrounding Kyle's identity continue to rock Genoa City.